As I said from my intro tonight, it's another opportunity for us to have the Legal Hour program, proudly sponsored by City Law Solicitors. The topic for tonight is, what are your rights if your bank account is frozen or closed by your bank? And the reason for this topic, I'm sure most of you are aware, is because it's becoming very, very, very rampant for banks to close account, freeze accounts, and of course, it comes with immense difficulties for customers of these banks. So tonight is your opportunity to get free legal advice on this topic. This is about the consumer law that City Law Solicitors brings to you. So tonight we are going to be looking at the consumer law. We'll be looking at immigration, employment law. Tonight we are here for consumers and everyone who has bank account. And as I've said, this is becoming very, very, very prevalent, where accounts are being frozen, accounts are being closed for numerous reasons. But I am going to take my time to explain to viewers and listeners why bank accounts are being frozen or closed, and also to explain the rights that these customers whose accounts have been closed by these banks, those rights that they have, and their right to remedies, including compensations. And that's why I'm urging you watching me tonight to share this video. This is about you, as I always say, it's about making law affordable. It's about making it easier for you to have that free legal advice to those things that are so common and quite prevalent in our society. And that's why City Law Solicitors is here to give you this free legal advice as part of our corporate social responsibility. But before I go straight into my topic, obviously there is a need for me to go on a short commercial break so that viewers can look at some of the things that City Law Solicitors do, our areas of practice, and those things that we are willing to assist if for whatever reason you have any problem in those areas. So please don't go away as I go on a short commercial break. And when I come back, I will take my time to gradually explain why customers' accounts are either being frozen or closed, and what they should do if the accounts are closed or frozen, and those rights that they have that they need to exercise in their own favor when those challenges come their way. So please don't go away. Thank you so much for your patience. As I said from the beginning, I am going to take opportunity to explain to you your legal right when your bank account is frozen or is closed. Now, to start with, customers don't have right to bank accounts. Absolutely. It's a qualified right. But the point is that most times when we are accepted by the bank to open an account in our name, we feel that we have that right to use that account as long as we remain solvent. Of course, when we become bankrupt, then this obviously might also affect your bank account. And I'm sure those of you who have been bankrupt in the past are aware that sometimes it's difficult to get bank account. So we feel that as long as we are solvent, we have that right to continue to use those accounts. But obviously, of recent, it has become quite prevalent that accounts are being closed. And people are beginning to experience that this is becoming very, very common. And most times, when these accounts are closed, they come with a lot of challenges. Now imagine as a business, your bank account is closed. It means that you cannot pay your staff, you cannot pay for your expenditure, you cannot fulfill your direct debit mandates, and obviously, you cannot also receive payment from clients and customers. That is if you are a business and your account is closed. So bank account is so important. Now, if for example, you are an individual and your bank account is closed or frozen, you probably have difficulty receiving your wages. You can't receive your wage or your salary at the end of the month. In the same vein, you will not be able to fulfill your direct debit mandate. You can't pay your bills. If you have set up direct debits, they will bounce. Obviously, you are going to be charged for those direct debits bouncing. And of course, you will not be able to make the regular expenditure that you make because your account is frozen. And therefore, it is so important that people understand and preempt what they can do if the accounts are frozen or closed. Now, there was a time someone called me and he said that my account is closed, I don't have money to buy milk for my children, I can't buy grocery, and the bank is not talking to me. So he asked me, lawyer, what should I do? I smiled because it's quite complex. It's not as simple. And he was so frustrated and angry and probably shouting at the bank staff. But to most of your surprise, the bank do have that right to do some of these things. But above all, they have legal obligation under the law to fulfill those mandates in ensuring that there is no money laundering, there is no terrorism, and to avoid fraud and crime. So the banks have these mandates, and if they don't fulfill them, they also get penalized by the law enforcement agencies. So you have accounts being closed, people going through difficulties. You have banks who also have obligation to sometimes close these accounts or freeze these accounts, otherwise they get penalized. And then there comes, what should people do to avoid some of these occurrences, which obviously comes with a lot of difficulties and challenges, and is, least to say, very frustrating for customers. And therefore, there is a need for people to listen carefully to some of these things that I'm going to discuss, so that they don't fall victims to their accounts being frozen or closed because of certain mistakes or things that they have done inadvertently, thereby resulting in their accounts being frozen. Now, the first thing that people have to understand is that when people are receiving huge sums of money, especially if these funds are coming from abroad, then to avoid the accounts being closed or frozen, they need to give the bank a notice. They first need to give the bank notice that they are expecting a fund from a particular country. These days, people buy stuff. They can even sell those stuff in Australia. They can sell them in Italy, and they receive funds in return as a payment for those services. People sell stuff in Ghana, for example, Africa, Nigeria, Cote d'Ivoire, and all these other countries, and receive payments into the accounts. And this is one of the grounds or suspicions that may cause the bank to close an account if prior notice is not given to the bank. The other point is where people embark on, obviously, a lot of transactions, thereby depositing a lot of cash into their accounts. Now, when people do that, technology has become so improved to the extent that banks are now using what they call algorithms. So, gone were the days when human beings were monitoring, going through people's statements to be able to identify some of the inconsistencies. These days, technology just picks up. It just picks up transactions and flag it out. And once they are flagged out, the bank sometimes even don't know reason why it is being flagged out. Straight away, they need to crash that account, freeze it, or close it. And it is for this reason that prior notice is so important to avoid your account being closed. For example, you've sold a product to someone. You are expecting payment. This is not a payment that you regularly receive. I know most of you are doing businesses. And people should note, if you are doing a business as an individual, as a sole trader, probably you end up using your personal account. The bank is not aware that that personal account is being used for business. And therefore, when payments are being made from the various corners, especially of the UK, technology is saying that these payments coming into that account can be a grounds of suspicion of money laundering or fraud. And therefore, straight away, those personal accounts can be frozen. It is not because individuals are necessarily engaging in fraudulent activities or transactions. It is simply because the bank is not aware, and the technology or the algorithms have just picked up those suspicious transactions. And the banks have a duty to straight away freeze those accounts. So my third point is that if you are running a business and you are selling stuff these days because of Facebook, Instagram, or all kinds of social media platforms, it's been very good for people to do businesses. People sell stuff on their Instagram profile and payments are made and then they post it to the individuals. And it's a way for people to make extra money even if they are working. But most times, these people get punished because their accounts are closed or frozen. So these individuals need to make the bank aware of or give them advance notice of these transactions to avoid the accounts being frozen simply because there have been numerous deposits from different parts of the country or even from abroad. So under some circumstances, it is advisable that if you are doing a business, then you need to perhaps open a business account. And to have a business account, I always say here, the banks are already aware that people can be sole traders. In this case, they don't need to register their business. But the mere fact that they are saying that they are running a business in their name, they are entitled to have a business account if they are accepted by the banks. If their business is registered, obviously, then of course, if the bank accepts that that business is registered as a company, for example, they can have a business account. If it's a partnership business and the bank accepts that it's a partnership business, 1, 2 or more people haven't come together to engage in the business for profit, which is what they call partnership, then they will be entitled to accounts. So sometimes for people to avoid these things happening to them, my fourth point is that they will probably have to consider having a business account in order to avoid some of these challenges that they may end up going through simply because of the fact that the algorithm or the technology of the banks is picking these transactions as or identify them as suspicious in nature. So that's my fourth point. But the other point is that when people are also traveling, these days you may want to go to Italy. Summer is just at the corner. Most of us will be willing to travel. Most of us will be going on holidays. When you are traveling, you are required to notify your bank that you are traveling. And therefore, when you are abroad, you are away, far away in the Caribbean islands, far away in Ghana, Accra, and making effort to use your accounts, because these days people, when they carry a lot of money on them, because of the fact that government feels that COVID loans are being laundered, they get stopped. And I'm sure some of you have read it from the newspapers. So people may have to go with their bank account, their bank card, so that whilst they are there, they are able to do transactions with their bank cards. But if they are not, the banks are not aware that that individual is traveling, then perhaps they may consider that transaction as fraudulent and may freeze the account. Just imagine being on holiday with your family or your girlfriend and your bank account is frozen. You have no means of making payment for even your hotel bills. And of course, the most frustrating aspect is that if you call the bank, they will probably ask you to bring your ID to the branch. And you might be in Guadeloupe, in a French island, how are you going to be able to take a flight to come all the way to UK when, in fact, your bills are even outstanding to bring your ID to the branch to identify yourself? And in fact, this has happened to me once a time when I was in Ghana and I went to take some funds from Barclays ATM, and that was it. Fortunately for me, that was my last night, so I was just coming back to the UK. So when I came back, I have to go for a new bank card. So even though I'm here teaching the law, sometimes I have not gone by it. But of course, just to make some jokes here, these things are happening, and people need to be very mindful of it, because sometimes when they do happen, they can be very, very frustrating, especially when you are on holiday. The other point is that people also moved. Sometimes people who are living in East London may suddenly move to Manchester, or they might go there to go and work for some time. And if they don't inform their banks, obviously, when there is recurrent transactions from those locations and they have not notified the bank of their change address, they could also have their bank accounts frozen or closed. But let's look at the effect of having your bank account frozen. But of course, I have delved into those difficulties people face. But the worst of them all is you, perhaps, if that account is frozen, it might not even be reopened anymore. And if your bank accounts ends up being closed permanently, then you may have difficulty even opening account with other banks. I'm sure some of you know about CFAs. These days, they have what they call a credit file for every customer. And therefore, when there is suspicious transactions recorded against you on your credit file, then most banks will be reluctant to open an account for you. So just imagine, if you only have one account, it means that you may not be able to receive your wages. And as I've said, you may not even be able to pay for your mortgage or your rent. So these are quite serious stuff. And not until they happen to individuals, they don't understand the immense consequences and the challenges that they will normally have to go through without their bank account. Especially these days when we are living in a cashless society. I don't even have a wallet. I only have a card holder. And I'm sure most people, they put it even on their bus pass. And some of them even don't carry it. They just carry their phone and they use it for all their transactions. So we are living in a cashless society whereby we cannot do without bank accounts. And therefore, they have become an essential part of our life. And it is for this reason that we need to avoid those conducts that might result in our accounts being frozen or closed. But a good thing here is that each time I come here to explain to people some of the challenges that they are more likely to go through when these things happen to them, I also profess solutions. And it's now a stage where I'm going to guide you to find that solution that you've been waiting for. Most time when pastors are preaching, they need to do what we call exhortation. And when they get to some stage, they need to obviously make people feel that there is hope. So I'm coming to the point where I'm going to make people feel that there is hope. But before I go there, most times when people get frustrated and they start shouting at their customers or the customer assistants at the bank or cashiers, even on the phone, there is something that I want people to understand before I go to professing the solutions to some of these problems. Of course, within discussing the problems, I have also given solutions in terms of how people can avoid these accounts being closed. But more importantly, I'm going to also go into the remedies, their rights, if the bank don't do their work properly. But before I do that, I want you to understand the obligation that the bank also has. The obligation upon the bank as a financial institution to adhere to legal requirements. And there are various laws. There is Crime Procedures Act 2002. There is Criminal Finances Act 2017 and 2018. And of course, there is the Money Laundering Act. So all these legislations place a duty on banks to ensure that business accounts, individual bank accounts, one, are not used for money laundering. Two, for terrorism acts. Three, for fraudulent or crime, fraudulent transactions or crime. Therefore, these banks have these duties. And if they fail to uphold these legal requirements, they get penalized. They get penalties. I'm sure most of you read from the newspapers how HSBC was penalized for being connected with money laundering when some funds were coming from certain parts of some countries when they were not made to have or they have not done their due diligence. So most times there is what they call SARS, which is Suspicious Activity Report. Now, when the banks suspect that there is fraudulent activity on your account, or have already explained, for example, if deposits, like deposits are being received from abroad, and you have not notified your bank of this like deposit, and it may appear so simple. But I have friends. There was a time when a family friend was telling me about how one of his family members received a fund from a particular country, and straight away the bank account was closed. And this is hundreds of thousands of pounds that is being held and now has to go to court to fight it. I am giving you this free legal advice tonight. Those like transactions coming from abroad are more likely to raise suspicion, and the bank have a duty to do what they call suspicious activity report, wherein the national crime agencies are going to be informed. But why people get frustrated when the accounts are frozen, and I'm choosing my words carefully because there is a distinction between accounts being frozen, which means that account is frozen for a while and eventually they might open it for a period. Or the account is even closed permanently where the bank terminates the contract. And the individual may not have right to use that bank account anymore when the contract, because bank account is, people must know that it's a contract, and where there is a breach, each party could terminate that contract. That is why you can simply move your account to another bank. You can decide to close your account at will. The bank can also close your account if there is a breach of any of the terms. Most times we don't read these terms anyway. Once they open an account for us, we don't go through it to look at some of the things that may result in a breach, thereby our accounts being frozen or closed. So these laws are there for the banks to uphold. Their legislations that require these banks to ensure that they don't allow the accounts that customers have with them to be used for terrorism, for money laundering, for crime, or fraudulent transactions. And it's for this reason that when the algorithms have picked up through technology a suspicious transaction, the banks need to do what they call suspicious activity report and notify the relevant agencies. And once these agencies have been informed, straight away, the banks by law cannot tell you why your account is frozen. And when I started my submission, I said that the family member called me and said that his account has been frozen and the bank is not saying anything, and he was so angry and shouting. I just smiled at him and I said, yes, that's what they are meant to do. They are doing their job properly by not communicating with you. Because if the banks anyway explain to you why your account has been frozen or closed, then under the law it's considered as a tip-off. So that tip-off means that the banks can be penalized for giving you a hint why your account has been frozen. And it's for that reason that most times the banks exercise their reticence or silence whenever these accounts are frozen, until such time that those suspicious activity reports have been notified. And it takes days. It takes days for the National Crime Agency sometimes to go through everything and then give the banks a green light to not to freeze the account or to thaw the account. So you understand why these banks sometimes conduct or deal with customers in a manner that sometimes is so frustrating for these customers, because they also have to abide by the law, otherwise they get sanctions or penalties. And these relevant laws even go deeper. Now if you look at the Finances Act, the Criminal Finances Act, for example, 2007, 2008, 18, you find that even unexplained wealth could attract freezing orders for the National Crime Agency. And people should take note. For example, if your tax return is saying that you earn, for example, 20,000 a year, and you have about 100,000 pounds in your account, then under the Criminal Finances Act 2018, this could be unexplained wealth that sometimes has its own sanctions. But I'm not here to go deep because these are quite deep stuff. I'm here to just explain to customers or viewers, and in this case, because I'm doing consumer law for individuals, how they should avoid these difficulties whenever they are faced with these challenges. So having taken my time to explain why accounts are frozen, why people could avoid their account being frozen or closed, and why banks do freeze these accounts or close them. So having looked at these three categories of the law, I am now going to the fourth section of my presentation tonight, your remedies. Because obviously, there is always opportunity for people to have remedies. So I have gotten to the stage where I need to obviously look at how people can have remedies. How people can have remedies whenever they find themselves in that situation. But before I do that, I want to take opportunity to acknowledge viewers who have been, who have joined us Tonight, I have Diana Jesse. He said, absolutely. I'm sure he's concurring to some of the things that I am saying. Some of you have, he said, does the transaction incur any charges when you are abroad? Obviously, the banks do have sometimes, some banks, even businesses, whenever there is a transaction, there's a transactional cost that people do pay. I have Nana Akins, I have people watching, but I cannot see them. Please, if you are watching us tonight and you want me to acknowledge you, kindly please put a comment so that I can acknowledge you. I appreciate all of you who are here tonight and obviously watching this program and being part of this discussion tonight. I'm quite grateful. So if you want to be acknowledged, I urge you to put a comment there, and I'm going to take my time to acknowledge. If you also have a question whilst I'm going ahead, it doesn't matter what the question is. If it's in my area of practice and I'm competent and have that knowledge in that area, I'm going to obviously give you free legal advice. So I'm going to the last part of the discussion, which is your remedies. Now, when banks' accounts are closed or frozen, we have obviously a regulator, which is a financial ombudsman. If your bank account is frozen or closed, and as I've said, because of tip-off, the bank have refused to communicate with you, or if they have made a final decision and terminated the contract, thereby closing your account, your remedy is to obviously make a complaint to the bank to resolve it. If they don't, then you need to take your complaint to the financial ombudsman. And then the financial ombudsman is there to look into the bank's activities, conduct, whether they have acted fairly. Now, the data before I came here suggests that about 30 to 35% of 750 cases which have been brought to the financial ombudsman this year, 2022, which means that about a quarter, shows that about more than 250 of those cases were adjudged in favor of customers. It means that the financial ombudsman found the bank, or it was adjudged that the banks did not act properly, and the bank was perhaps wrong to either freeze those accounts or to close those accounts. So it means that when you take your complaint to the financial ombudsman, you are more likely to get very favorable remedy. So what does the financial ombudsman do? Now, I have already said that the bank do have a duty to either freeze the account or close the account. But when you take your case to the financial ombudsman, most times the banks may be entitled to freeze the account, but the way in which the bank have conducted themselves may be unfair. For example, it might have taken so long for the bank to deal with the matter. Under those circumstances, somebody was asking about charge. It means that if your direct debit failed, if you couldn't pay your direct debit fulfill your direct debit mandates, and there have been transactional costs or charges against you, the financial ombudsman is going to make award of compensation in your favor. So the banks may have legal right to have frozen the account or close it, But the manner in which those rights were exercised may not be proper and fit for purpose, and it's for that reason they could be fined, and that customer may be entitled to compensation. So for example, if the bank has closed or froze your account, you made a complaint, they have refused to talk to you, and they have passed the tip-off period when they are meant to have communicated to you and they haven't done that, then of course, even though the suspicious activity report suggested that they could make that tip-off, but the manner in which that has been carried out may have resulted in immense inconvenience to the consumer, which could have been avoided if they have done their job properly. It's a human institution. Maybe there were some delays here and there. Those individuals are entitled to compensation. And in most cases, as I've given you the data, the financial ombudsman will make decision in those customers' favor. The other point is that sometimes the bank might also be wrong. So there is a point where the bank is right to freeze or close, but have done it in an improper manner. Or there is that second option where the bank have closed the account or freeze the account without any genuine cause. Under those circumstances, that customer will be brought to the position he would have been if the bank has not acted in that way. It means that your account will be reinstated, and you will also be entitled to compensation. So you would have realized that up to this point, you were entitled to two sets of compensation. When the banks act inappropriately, or if they didn't have genuine cause for closing your account or freezing your account. Under both circumstances, you will be entitled to compensation, and you could also be brought to the position you would have been if the bank have not acted in that manner, which means that your account will be reinstated. So all is not lost when your account is either frozen or closed. And this is where I'm going to bring the discussion or the conclusion of this discussion. And at this point, I want to ask if anybody has any question. The phone lines are open, you can see it there. And at the same time, I'm going to mention it. If you have any question and you want to ask a question, you can call 079 293-4518. 079-3293-4518 or 0744-033-8623. 0744-033-8623. If you want to call to ask any legal question, this is your opportunity for free legal advice. In the meantime, I'm going to advertise our sponsor, obviously, which is CITI Law Solicitors. This program is proudly sponsored by CITI Law Solicitors. It is because of CITI Law Solicitors that is why I'm here to give you this free legal advice. Obviously, I know that a few days ago, one of our friends was asking about having a problem with account being closed. And I'm sure if that individual is watching tonight, he has taken a lot of advice from this presentation. But if for whatever reason people cannot do it themselves, of course, CITI Law Solicitors, who specialize in consumer law, will be able to defend you, will look at your case, and we know the difficulties people go through when their accounts are closed, especially if they have just one bank account. they can't receive their wages, they can't receive their salary, they can't make payment. And most cases, people cannot even have the opportunity to open another account because of the adverse credit report on their file. Most of the banks will equally reject them, and therefore they will end up not having a bank account. And we all know how that means, especially when we are living in a cashless society in these times. So, CITI Law Solicitors, we specialize in the following areas of law. If you are looking for us to, we are located at Barking. Our office address is Unit 113 or 122 Barking Enterprise Center, 50 Cambridge Road, Barking, IG 11 8FG. The office telephone number is 020 3355 0782. The emergency contact number is 0777 777 210 4967. And these are the areas of specialization. We specialize in immigration law, nationality law, asylum, EU law, which is still ongoing under the settlement scheme, and all cases under the immigration law. So if for whatever reason you need a lawyer to represent you in your immigration matter and you want that good result, please, this is your one stop. We also specialize in employment law. If you have been unfairly dismissed, if you are going through discrimination, if for whatever reason your employer is harassing and bullying you at work, we are here to also represent you. If you own a company and you want a lawyer to assist you so that there will be unnecessary claims being made against you, then of course, CITI Law Solicitors is here to provide you advice as a corporate lawyer. Family law, we are family law accredited. We specialize in all areas of the family law. If you want child arrangement order, non-molestation order, these days I've said that the domestic abuse has now made it a law. That is now a criminal offense, so people should be careful when there is a case of molestation order or occupation order against you. Sometimes those cases could result in criminal sanctions where people could receive custodial sentences. So people should not take it for granted. So if you need a lawyer to defend you under the family law, we are here. If you want a contact with your child and you are not having that, and you want child arrangement order in place, again, we are here. Public law, if there is a problem with the council having a problem, your child being taken into care, we can assist you. And if you are going through divorce and you want a lawyer to represent you and get the best advice and support, we are also here to help you. Personal injuries and clinical negligence, we specialize in personal injury. If you ever had an accident at work that was not your fault, if you had a motor accident that was not your fault, then of course we'll be willing to support you. Commercial dispute and civil litigation, if you have a business, if there is a judgment debt against you and you want us to assist you, we are here to also help you. Housing disrepair and areas under the housing law, we are also here to also assist you. Consumer law, which is what I have been discussing tonight, looking at how you can get remedies or compensation if your bank account is closed. This comes under the consumer law. And finally, media and entertainment law, if you have a trademark, you want to register it. All these areas of law, we are here to assist you. So it's been a privilege having you on board tonight. Obviously, on Thursday, which is 2 days from tonight, MC Chaka will host this program, and then we'll have this discussion in tree, so that people who have had difficulty not understanding some of the things that have been discussed here tonight can have the benefit of getting the same program in the Tree language. So Thursday we are going to be here again, and I'm urging all of you to join us so that we can have very interactive discussion as we do always, and get encouraged to also bring this program to you every Tuesday and Thursday. So I want to thank you tonight for joining us, and for our Muslim brothers and sisters, I'm sure you had a very beautiful Eid, and Allah have strengthened you after your fasting, and you are going to do a lot of exploits. So I want to also wish you Eid, happy Eid, or belated Eid. And I want to thank each and every one of you who have been part of this program tonight. God richly bless you. Thank you for the patronage. God bless you.